Welcome to RVing in New England, the nation's only forum that puts you on stage with some of the biggest names in the RV industry. And now your hosts, John DePietro and Bob Zagami.
Hey, everybody, live and lively, direct from New England and Florida.
And Wednesday night, you still got your winter jacket on. It's not even winter up there yet.
I'm a wimp. What can I say?
Oh, God, man.
What can I say? Hey, it's RVing in New England. We want to thank you so much for taking time from your busy day. Well, I can see we have a number of people logged on already, and we have several people viewing us. So we want to say thank you and let you know we've got an absolutely phenomenal show coming up tonight because there is a book in everyone. And we're going to tell you how to take your experiences and turn them into something that everybody around the world can see. And it's really cool. We've got a great guest. And you say, well, what's this got to do with RVing? Well, every RVer has a book. And heck, we got a bunch of RV books around here somewhere. Last week, we had great authors, Mark and Julie Bennett, and, they've written bestsellers. And who's to say that your story is not a bestseller? And
just because you may not know how to write it or the proper grammar, John Seeley is with us tonight. He's the author of many books, and he's helped many people either ghostwrite a book or co-author a book. And he's going to talk about how they do that, how he does that, the types of services that he has. But when I met him earlier this week, through a mutual friend in my old document imaging days, we talked about people wanting to write and document their history, especially now in terms of there's so much social media. What do you leave behind? Are they going to see that Facebook post 20 or 30 years from now? Are they going to remember that Instagram post? No. So how about a book detailing your family history, your accomplishments, or maybe a travel book with your RV adventures on different trips? You could have one for each trip. It's going to be quite exciting. I think you're going to find, I know we're going to find a lot of prospects the way the show is going. But, we should say
tell everybody that we're brought to you by.
Right. A new sponsor. And they did, where did it go? They sent me a new ad this week. So it's very good. I thought it was excellent when I previewed.
Yeah, it's good because they didn't mention me.
Well, but John, who's the star of the show? Who's the younger, best looking guy of the show? I mean, I can't tell them what to put in their ads. So let's again say thank you to Auto and RV Ranch in Allington, Connecticut, our sponsor through the end of July. So let's see what we got here.
And hope.
Good afternoon, all the New England RV dealers in NERVTA. Welcome to Lee's Auto and RV. We want to welcome everybody down for our Harvest Jubilee sale. Yeah. Come on down. We want to thank Bob Zagami once again for inviting us into the NERVTA show on Wednesday night. And there's a partner he's got. Who is it? Yeah. Oh, that's right, John DePietro. Oh, John DePietro!
See, and Brian and the team came up with that on their own. They called me the other day and they said, hey, we got this idea. And I said, hey, I'm crazy. I'll take any idea. Whatever you want to do. They said, oh, send me a picture of John. We got this great idea. So they
That is hilarious. Play it again.
played again.
Good afternoon, all the New England RV dealers in NERVDA. Welcome to Lee's Auto and RV. We want to welcome everybody down for our Harvest Jubilee sale. Come on down. We want to thank Bob Zagami once again for inviting us into the NERVDA show on Wednesday night. And there's a partner he's got. Who is it? Oh, that's right, John DePietro. Oh, John DePietro. Good afternoon, all the New England.
Play it. I'm not going to play it 3 times.
Just play that for the whole. That
At
is
the
too
end of the show, we'll put it on every 5 minutes.
That is too funny.
And I noticed, Gracie was in the background. I thought she was on a.
I didn't see her there. I couldn't figure out who the people were.
With the tie-dye shirt in the.
Okay.
Good afternoon, all the New England RV.
See the back. I thought she was on a national tour and doing some band camping, and maybe she's back home again. So.
Oh boy, that's too funny. The beauty that we have with doing this show, number one, is the audience. And audience, I'm not making this up because we watch a lot of other RV shows, RV podcasts, whatever you want to call it, broadcasts. But they lack a live studio audience. And we've got a live studio audience here. And they're great. And look they're from all over the country. And I see Ryan is here. Ryan was here yesterday. Was it yesterday, Ryan? Yeah, Tuesday to winterize. It's so funny. And I see Jerry Plant here. I had a question about something. I called Majors, and Jerry said, I can help you with that. And we've got family-owned dealerships. And, we've got the big ones too, but we're primarily family-owned dealerships in New England. And there's something that needs to be said about family-owned businesses. And, that's pretty cool. So who we got, Bob? Wait a minute. Bob, before we go into that,
what?
When you write a book, you make mistakes and you just cross them off and start over. But when you do videos, you make mistakes as well. And when I was doing a TV show in Springfield a few years ago, we always put a segment on called bloopers in the last 30 seconds when they're running the credits as to who the camera person was and all that other stuff. And yesterday, just before Ryan and Scott, I think it was Scott, came over to winterize, I decided to do a video about utilizing those sunscreens on top of your the skylights in your RV, because I think everybody would agree, our audience, I see them nodding their head right now, they would all agree that the sun can do.
Everybody, I think we can all agree that
just as much damage as the winter. So I made a few mistakes. We got some outbreaks of stupidity. If you have an opportunity, Bob, and can cue that up.
I just moved it over. So let me see if I can bring this up.
After I build it up.
Sun is one of the enemies of your RV. So one of the things that we've done for the past several years is in the skylight.
Is it playing?
In the bathroom.
It's a video, Bob, but we need the pictures.
There we go.
If you're tall. But everybody, I think we can all agree that sun is one of the enemies of your RV. So one of the things that we've done for the past several years is in the skylight in the bathroom, which gives you a little more room if you're tall, but it also lets the sun in. So that's an issue. Hold on. Everybody, I think we'd agree that the sun can be one of the biggest enemies of your RV. So here's what we've done for the past several years. Over the skylight, over the shower, we have attached some of this stuff that we got as a windshield protector. We cut it in half. We put some Velcro there, and we stick it up there, and okay, there's an outtake. Hey everybody, here's another less than 30-second tip on how.
Oh boy, that was quite a
If you're going to do videos.
Did anybody get hurt in the taping of that?
No, just my ego. But folks, if you're going to do videos, have somebody there to hold the video for you, hold the camera for you. And we did another one with Ryan that we'll show you a little bit later. There's no outtakes. We did that in one take. We'll show you that next week. But maybe we should look over and see who we've got for a live studio audience, Bob.
Yeah. So let me bring John up and introduce him to the audience. John Seeley, welcome to RVing in New England, and happy to have you.
Glad to be here. I actually love RVing, and I've watched many videos on it, and so I've learned some of the ins and outs and tricks about it too.
That's good. All right, exactly. So let's tell John about our audience. Who do we have on there tonight?
So, John, basically our situation is such that I believe we're the only show in the entire United States that has a live studio audience every week. Now, there are tons of RV podcasts and broadcasts that come out every week, but it's generally a couple people sitting in front of a camera and blathering on for 45 or 50 minutes with really nothing to say. And if you've watched enough RV videos, you know exactly what I mean. But we blather on, but we have something to say. And the only reason we have something to say is because of the intake, the input that we get from this live studio audience. And as I look around here, I see Jerry Plant in Massachusetts on Cape Cod. I see Walter Swenson, who's in Central Mass, who can drive to Florida. Now, Walter is one of those guys. Here's a book that Walter can write.
That's right.
How I drove.
I'm sure Walter's got a book in his head.
Yeah. Walter can write the book about how I drove to Florida faster than flew from Florida back to Massachusetts.
Wow.
Which happened to him this week.
Yeah.
Frank is from just north of Boston. Dante, where's Dante from? Maine?
Wyndham, Maine. Yep.
Maine, okay. Jim Conboy, evening all. He's in Massachusetts. Jim Roy is in Massachusetts. Jerry Plant has
Jim's in Monmouth, Maine.
Okay. Jerry Plant.
Now, there's a guy who's got a book. Jim Roy's got to have a book. Builder, left his custom home building business and started restoring Airstreams. John,
wow, that'd be cool.
Amazing business. Like 3 or 4 years into restoring Airstreams, and he's one of the most respected Airstream restoration companies in the country. And he's in the middle of the woods in Maine. I mean, in the middle of the woods, really. Walter's bragging because it was 68 degrees up in Massachusetts today. Well, it was 87 degrees in Florida today.
That's too hot.
Yeah. So Monica's with us again, and our good friend Ryan is here. Good evening, guys. Stella's all upset because her unit is in storage now and winterized and off the road. Ryan says there are too many Johns on the show tonight. And our good friend Tim with Tim's RV, who is obviously back from Indiana.
Oh, yeah, is that where he was? That's right, yeah.
Picked up his first Intech OVR. That's another one we were talking about overlanding on our other show when John and I were taping that earlier today, but that's another one. This Intech OVR is right in that same space as the Puma Pause and the Lance unit and the Ember outdoor unit. It's a lot of activity in that. So Jerry says I started. Jerry, I'll bet Jerry has a hell of a book. Jerry in his head. He started his book several times.
But Jerry, John's going to tell you this, but I'll just preamble it. Okay. Don't start with once upon a time that's been used over and over and over again. So we've got our Indiana guy, Kevin from Cougar.
Kevin Horkey is there. Hey, no golf tonight, Kevin, or is the golf league all over for the summer?
It might be dark.
It doesn't
Is it dark where you are, Zagami?
No. It's just starting to get dark.
Yeah.
We're on the
dark here.
west side of the eastern zone there. So good to see you on, Kevin. So, John, how did you get into? You did some other things beforehand. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was in the hospitality field for 17 years, and I finally decided I never wanted to work that hard again.
John, were you the one that you handed the light? You handed the guy a note back saying, "Your name is not John Smith."
I get called a lot of things besides John, so I'll take John as a compliment.
So were you in the hotel business? Were you in the RV business? What were you in?
I was in the hotel restaurant business, and I had my own restaurant. I had been a chef before that, and you know, it's like if you opened a restaurant at the beginning of the pandemic, I did almost the same thing, except it was 40 years ago, where it was the beginning of a recession, and I was right across the street from a mile-long factory, literally a mile-long, huge factory. Been there 100 years. You might even know the company. It's called Ellis Chalmers, and they made farm tractors.
Right.
Well, if you remember back then with the grain embargo, farmers went under. They weren't buying any tractors, so this company went under. And unfortunately, everybody in the area worked for the company, so all my customers were out of jobs. So it was a tough time to be in a restaurant business, but I like the business. I like the food. I like the people, but I found much more joy in creating books from people's stories. That seems to bring a lot more joy and reach a lot more people.
But how did you get into that? It's one thing for somebody to say, like John did. John self-published his book, and a lot of people do it that way. But how did you tie together and say, you know what, I can help a lot of other people bring their book to life? How'd that come about?
Well, it came about when I left a job. I was asked to leave. I actually told the vice president of another branch of our company, a big corporate branch. It was the Citigroup, and I told them off because they lied about something, and so I was let go. But I took that opportunity to write my first book, and by doing so, I didn't know what I was doing, so I had to pay a lot of other people to learn the business. And I self-published the first book. I went through a different company first, and I didn't like the way they did it, and I ended up, I learned how to do everything because I argued with editors because they ended up changing the meaning of the words that I put down, and they didn't get the concept that I have a message and you're missing it. So I learned to do it myself, and I paid literally $150,000 over about 10 years to learn from the best people in the business, not only book publishing, but book marketing as well, which had changed more in the last 20 years than it had in the previous 400.
And they are, right, John? They're two totally separate disciplines.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a big difference. And I was in sales and marketing for 15 years before that, but book marketing is a whole different animal. And again, it's changed so much just in the last 20 years. So to keep up with that is difficult.
And authors are generally not good marketers because when you look at the big authors, the ones that the major publishing companies have, they're generally recluses.
Yeah.
And they don't like selling. Selling is a dirty word, even though, if you don't sell a book, you don't get the next deal.
Yeah. And you can go overboard, but to at least let people know what you have and you're doing them a service. Ideally, you want them to buy your book because it's a benefit to them. So I learned how to get all the details done, because you wouldn't, until you publish a book, as you probably know, John, you don't know how difficult it is, how much back and forth there is, how many times you have to change things over and over and over and over, re-editing, proofing, formatting, cover design,
cover design, interior design is different. The person who does the cover is different than the person who does the pages inside.
Yes.
And
I've got a whole staff that does all the different individual jobs. So I delegate.
What type do you use? How big is it? How many pages? Do you want pictures?
It depends. See, that's my first book.
Get Unstuck. The simple guide to restart your life. Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people need that right now, but I actually was stuck. That's why I wrote the book. And I learned over 10 years how to get unstuck. In fact, I went back and I got a master's degree in psychology in the process. And that's one of the things that I help people with is as we write memoirs, oftentimes their issues come up. They're going back over their life and they remember some things are traumatic or some things that they forgot. And so it's cathartic, but it helps to have a coach like me who can actually talk with the people and help them through whatever that issue is that comes up. And then we still are able to write the book. And for those who don't actually do writing or don't know how to write, I've done all the writing for the people where I've actually literally just interviewed the person and then I write the book for them while we have a conversation. And, you know, it goes back and forth. So I'll send it to them. Here's what I wrote. What do you think? I mean, so we make sure that it stays in their voice, not in my voice. It's their voice that comes out. So
basically, John, you were a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah. Yeah. And then even when you get your first book out, you know, I've had a lot of unique marketing. I had probably the best book marketing idea ever, which just almost happened. And here's what it was. My first book, Get Unstuck, was out. And I thought, you know, I'd like to get an RV and go around the country and do workshops and sell books. And I thought that'd be great. So I was talking to some colleagues of mine and they said, oh, well, if you're going to do that, you should get that amphibious RV. I said, there's an amphibious RV? They go, yeah. So I looked it up and yeah, there's an amphibious RV. So I called up the manufacturer and I said, hi, I'm an author and I'd like to talk to you. I got a business proposition. They said, okay. So I flew there. I met with them and I said, I've got this book called Get Unstuck and I want to go around the country in an RV to promote it. And I thought I'd use your RV as the RV that never gets stuck because it's amphibious. And I said, I'll go to the 30 largest metro areas in the country. I'll, you know, get radio, TV, newspaper coverage, whatever body of water they got, we'll drive into it. We'll get tons of coverage. You'll sell a bunch of these things. And all you have to do is lend me the RV. And they said, you know, we're pretty good at marketing. We don't really need your help. I'm like, oh, uh-oh. So I had plan B. So I said, I tell you what, let's do this. Let's do a one-shot deal. And if it works, you let me take it on tour. And I said, and if it works, I'll get you in front of 1 billion people. And they go, how can you do that? I said, well, the Super Bowl is right in Jacksonville this year. That was in 2005. I said,
the Patriots were playing.
Yeah. I said, I'll get Fox, who's broadcasting a game, to broadcast on the RV during the game. And they said, man, if you can do that, we'll let you do it. So I contacted a PR guy and we got Fox. So we went down there. I don't know if you remember this, but it was pouring rain for 2 solid weeks every day in Jacksonville. And so we're down there in the pouring rain and we're going, man, we're missing out on a lot of PR now. You know, can't do anything. So what can we do? I said, well, let's have a party on the RV with cheerleaders and celebrities during the game. So Fox will flash back and forth. Hey, how's the party going? And so we talked to Fox and they said, yeah, it's a good idea. So we started rounding up the celebrities and cheerleaders and we alerted the Coast Guard that we were going to be there because, you know, frankly, it wasn't that long after 9/11. We didn't want to shoot us out of the water with a 45-foot long RV coming toward the Super Bowl. And you couldn't ask for a better venue because the St. John River goes right above, it abuts the parking lot for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it was perfect. Anyway, so we told them, hey, by the way, we're going to have some more people on board and some cameras.
You mean scantily clad women?
We didn't mention that. Mention that. But so what we did is we updated them. That was a Tuesday. So then Wednesday, still raining. So we're deciding where we got to find a place to launch this thing. So we were up and down the river. We found a place to launch it. And we're on a dock. And there's a boat tied up to the dock. And we're on the dock. So I rolled down the RV's window and I yelled out to them, hey, man, I need a certified ship's captain to pilot this thing up and down the river during the Super Bowl. Do you know someone I can get? And the guy goes, I'm a certified ship's captain. I'll do it for free because I'll be on the Super Bowl. I'm like, yeah, you will. So we're cool. This is Thursday. Everything's cool. And the next day was supposed to be the first dry day in 2 weeks. So we had 3 camera crews meeting us at 10 o'clock in the morning. We had Fox, we had CNBC, and we had our own camera crew. So I went back to my hotel. The RV people go back to the RV park. My PR guy goes back home. Everything's cool. A couple hours later, I'm eating dinner. I get a call from my PR guy. He got a call from the RV people. And they got a message from the Coast Guard because he said he was going to try to schmooze to get out of having the certified ship's captain. And I'm guessing the schmoozing didn't go well because the Coast Guard said, we've had enough trouble keeping these waterways safe without you. And right then I'm thinking that's not good. And the next line was, and we've checked and that RV is not registered as a boat and you cannot put it in the water in the state of Florida. I'm like, no. So my dreams went down. I mean, we had like 10-foot tall copies of the cover of my book on the sides of the RV. We had 40 feet long, websites on the roof. We had everything covered. It was going to be great. I even had a deal with the RV manufacturers. I was getting $100,000 for every RV we sold. Would have been great, but anyway. So that was book marketing.
Was that the Terra something or other?
Yeah, the Terrawind.
Terrawind, yeah. Never. Yeah. They went out of business.
Never made. Yeah, they went underwater.
Underwater.
Yeah. Well, again,
it was a great concept, but
we would have, if we would have gotten that out there, that would have made them. So
Well, I'm not sure it would have made them. That's one of those classic. If we build a product, they'll come, and nobody asked. No, let me put it this way: nobody in the RV industry asked for an RV that could float on the water.
It was kind of cool, though.
Oh, it was very cool. Yeah.
Did you ever go out in the water in it?
2 years?
It cost them 1.8 to build.
Yeah, 2 years.
And they were going to sell them for 1.2.
Yeah, 2 years ago, there was an investment group that wanted to bring it back.
Yeah,
and it was going to bring it back, and that didn't work either. Let me see what we got over here. Kevin
but
said,
it would have been clever to take it around the country. People would have wanted to see it.
All right, let me just catch up with Kevin. Kevin, you have to get up early in the morning if you're going to play with Sagami and DePietro. I already got the report that you were at Camping World in Wyndham yesterday. I already got that report. And this morning I got the report that you're going to Center Conway and going up to Pete. So we're tracking. When you guys could, Kevin's a manufacturer's rep for the great Keystone, but he reps the Cougar line to our dealers. So just be aware, Kevin, that we scout all the manufacturers' reps as soon as they cross the border into New England. Walter says, I have a book idea that I would love to write, but need to finish working out the overall ideas. All right, stop him right there and give me a sales pitch, John. Why does he not want to stop and wait? How many times have you heard people say, I want to do that?
Yeah, I get a lot of people that do that. It ends up being a someday I'll. They think that it has to be perfect right then and there before they get it. What editors do, and one of the things I've done with people, is I work with them. It's called coaching. I work with them. So we work through all the details, and we can streamline it and do it so much faster than it would take if you just by yourself go, okay, so I'll write a page here and maybe I'll look at it again in 2 weeks. And so having someone there that actually works with you on a regular basis, holds you accountable, it also helps you get through the writer's block, gets through just looking at it and thinking it's not perfect, I can't make it work. We have a more objective point of view, and we can get it across to you how you can make the changes that will make it work, and then get it streamlined and move forward.
And you would like working with Walter, because Walter's our resident engineer. He works with Dell Technology, so he's very detailed. He's very research oriented. If somebody asks you a question during the show, Walter will have an answer. 15 seconds later, he'll go out. He understands all that stuff, so I'm sure he understands exactly what you said. He just needs a little nudge.
Well, the thing is about engineers is that they tend to do things where it has to be absolutely perfect before they show it to anybody.
Right.
That's not how writing works. It's different. It's a creative process.
If you're a rocket scientist, yes, it's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
But virtually in everything else, how many rewrites? I mean, rewrites.
Yeah.
And even the cover, what colors are going to use, all that stuff. But the hardest part is taking that first step, sitting down on that laptop and cranking out those first couple thousand words. And who cares if they're right or not? When you, by the time you finish the book, you look back at the beginning and say, I can't believe I was that bad. And,
Hemingway said, write drunk and edit sober. And so the idea was write with free abandon. In other words, don't criticize it, just get it out. We can fix it later.
Yeah.
And, don't worry about spelling and grammar and everything. That's what I'm for.
Hey, Bob, why don't we do this so we don't forget? Why don't we go into that break right now? And then when we come back, have John give us the 3 top steps you need to do immediately if you want to write a book.
Okay, we shall do that.
How's
And
I'll put my fake voice on and say, we'll be back with more right after this.
We want to thank Bob Zagami and NERVDA for inviting us to sponsor their fall into winter dealership sponsor program. And we want to introduce ourselves. This is Brian and the sales team here at Lee's Auto and RV Ranch. We want to welcome all the NERVDA members to come visit us and check out our great operation. We have a tremendous amount of inventory from small teardrops to Class A motorhomes. And also we want to introduce you to our service department where we do full mechanical repair and body work, floors, paint work, custom paint work on anything from Class A diesel pushers to small motorhomes. We want to invite everybody down to come say hello. We're family owned and operated. We're here to help you and serve you.
Here we go.
I'm gonna play the one they sent today because there are some people that may have missed the opening of the show. You got grandkids running around the house?
Not me.
Is that George?
No, that's my cat.
Oh, that's your cat.
cat.
Okay. All right. So for those who weren't that open at the beginning of the show, you know how he abused John because he got insulted that Brian and the team excluded him from the commercial. So this is their response.
Good afternoon, all the New England RV dealers and NERVDA. Welcome to Lee's Auto and RV. We want to welcome everybody down for our Harvest Jubilee sale. Yeah. Come on down. We want to thank Bob Zagami once again for inviting us into the NERVDA show on Wednesday night. And there's a partner he's got. Who is it? Yeah. Oh, that's right, John DePietro. Oh, John DePietro!
I don't know, DePietro, that they're going to make
creative.
Creative. Yes, very creative. They're going to make it famous in Allington, Connecticut.
Okay.
All right, John.
So hold on, Bob. Let's do this. Let's have John tell us. Well, first of all, I want to ask John a question. Do you believe that everybody has a book in them? Number one, and even if you want to restrict it to your RV travels, John DePietro on a stick. Thanks, Walter. I used to be a stick at one time. I ain't no more. But number one, everybody has a book in them. Believe it, true or false. And secondly, can people just even writing a book about their RV travels, the crazy things that they've run into, and they don't have to be a novel. They don't have to be a nonfiction. A fictional novel. They don't have to be a Stephen King or anybody like that. But even a compilation of all the stories can turn into a book. And if you agree with that, tell us the first three things that people need to do to begin the process.
Yeah, actually, everybody does have a book in them, and sometimes they have a lot more than them. I never thought I would be writing books, but I was told years ago that I should be a writer, and I will write a book, and it turns out they were right. And the thing is, a lot of people let themselves be stopped by the fact that they're not writers. They're not
right.
They're not the kind that does that. Well, that's what people like me are for. That's, we actually are ghost writers. We'll write the book for you. And sometimes we will do it completely anonymously where we're not even mentioned other than maybe a thank you in the acknowledgement page. Otherwise, we might share credit with you if we're going to write a biography for you or whatever. Usually we write memoirs, and that is where it's the best you can remember. It's about, the things that you want to highlight or the key things of your life. And sometimes what we'll do is we go through a weekly session. Usually it's a Zoom call because I've worked with people around the world. And we will actually just interview you and talk to you about your life. And then we'll be writing it down and we'll send it to you back and forth. And we'll keep fine-tuning it till we end up getting a book out of it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be your whole life. It could be just one particular story. Yep. In fact, I'm writing a new book right now, just finished. And it's called Second Chances. It's about my life. It's my little memoir. Because 10 months ago, or not even 10, 8 months ago, I almost died. I was in a coma I was in a hospital for almost a month, and I survived. And so it's called Second Chances, and it's a pretty unique story because, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. Everybody has a story that happens to them, and just because it was very traumatic for me, and for me to write it, it was helping me to get through the process of dealing with the trauma. And I know that by people reading it, it will help people to understand you're not alone when you go through something like this. Or also, if you have someone that you love that's gone through this, you will help to understand how they feel when they're going through this. A lot of people don't have the words to put down. I did after I got out. And but I mean, literally, when I woke up from the coma, I had no memory of anything. So what happened was I said, I want to make a phone call, and they said, okay. And so when I got the phone and I called this friend of mine, first words out of my mouth were, help, I've been kidnapped, call the police. And literally that's what I thought happened. So, you know, it was traumatic to say the least. Luckily I hadn't been kidnapped. And luckily the person I called actually knew I was in the hospital. So it worked out okay. But it's like, everybody has a story. Everybody has a book. And sometimes it's a short book. I've published for like as young as 6 years old. I've just published another one for an autistic person who's actually nonverbal, but was able to write. So actually we're doing a trilogy. So you never know what might be out there. So it could be a very short book. It could be, you know, 30, 40 pages. It could be, you know, 300 pages. I just published a novel and that was like 700 pages. So it just really depends. Everybody's got the book, but here's the thing. You just have to decide that you actually want to tell your story, whatever that story is. Then if you can, ideally you write a little outline. Now, for some people, I know they can't do that. So that's why I work with them and I help them to sort out, well, here's, you know, roughly here's what the chapters will be. And they're not in stone, because even after I wrote my first book, there's sometimes I move chapters around. Sometimes I took the chapter out, so I put a new one in. So it's a creative back and forth. It's not one of those one and done kind of things. And so then once you do that, ideally, if you can at least write the highlights of what you want to make sure you covered during that process. And it could, like I said, it could be just an event, or it could be a short story, which is, you know, maybe something that repeated, or it could be your whole life. We've done that. So just determine that you want to do it. Write an outline if you can. If you can't, find someone like me who can help you to do that process and understand it and help you through the whole thing. Because again, for some people, it can be traumatic just going through reviewing their lives. And so that's the benefit you get with me. You get a double benefit because I was a life coach and I actually help people to deal with things and then help you put it in paper and then create the actual book and get it out and put it in the stores so that people can buy it.
To your point, and I had put the name, that's the name of your company, but right. On your about page, now this, to your point that it doesn't have to be a gigantic book, it doesn't have to be 700 pages. How many pages was something like that?
That one is actually more like 30. Yeah, we've done some short books that just there's like a booklet, like if you have a business and you want to promote it, you might write just some few stories of some of the people that you've helped, and that's it. And then, you know, a little coupon at the end maybe, and you hand it out as a promotional item. I've got a little resort that wrote a recipe book for drinks. So they did the 12 cocktails of Christmas.
There you go. I know Walter wants to write a book after this week about if I ran the airline, ... Well,
there you go. Here's another one of his delaying tactics. I only have the starting point of an outline. I wouldn't put words down until I have an outline. I write legal contracts at work, so I know better than to try to do it myself. But here again, John, you'd help him with the outline, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, they have one point of view, but sometimes I try to bring it in from the reader's point of view of what would make it flow. And sometimes there is where you jump around a little bit, like you can start in the present and then go back in history and say, hey, here's where it all started, blah, blah, blah. So if you've seen movies like that, that's kind of the idea. Sometimes when you're telling a story about a person, you might start in the present and then go back, here's how I got there, kind of thing. In fact, one of the books I wrote was about the guy who invented the MP3 player, also known as the iPod. Yeah, there you go. Fine. And so he changed the world of music, changed the world, period. The reason you can download music on your phone is because of him.
And his testimonial that he wrote for you. I've been trying to write my biography for 6 years, and then I met John Seeley. He worked with me closely, and within 4 months, I had a #1 best-selling book on Amazon. It was a pleasure to work with John, and his writing skills are amazing. There you go. Steve Swenson, you got to stop making excuses down there. Come up and
Well,
get
you
yourself.
know, John, I'm sure you'd agree. I mean, my book came out in 2006, so that's 16 years ago. But it's so much easier now than it was then. And I was under the impression that you had to hire an agent and you had to, be picked by Random House or Penguin or Simon and Schuster and all that other stuff. You don't need any of that stuff anymore. You can go direct to the public. And in fact, you don't even need to print a book to have a book.
No,
Yeah.
back when I first did it, I printed out 10,000 copies and had them in a
Right.
warehouse and had to pay for that and had to pay for every time they were sent out and back and this and that. So yeah,
Yep.
you don't have to do it. You can do print on demand now, which is great. Saves you a ton of time and money because they don't even make it until they sell it, and it's not
Right.
coming back because they already sold it. So
Yep.
yeah, it's much better. But it's still, for most people, it's overwhelming, all the different details that are involved in just getting it done. So that's why we take that worry away from them.
Yeah. Hey, LeChurko's with us tonight, and he says he wants to know if you feel better, John, because they added you into one of the commercials.
I feel so much better. I'm going there next week and do a couple interviews down there during the show.
God bless you, John. And our gain to have you with us. Now you get all kinds of accolades. So I don't know.
I don't think he's talking about me. I think he's talking about the other John.
The other one who almost died, I guess.
Yep, the one who almost died.
Oh, that's what. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I have you. That's right.
Yeah, he might control the buttons, but I control the show. But what it all boils down to, John, half of the issue of writing a book is feeling worthy that the content that you have is good. But it just needs to benefit someone. I'm sure you'd agree that write a book to benefit someone else, not an ego thing for yourself, because nobody's going to want to read that. But again, it doesn't have to be that 700-page book. It doesn't have to be hardcover. It doesn't have to have any of those elements. It just has to have something that has made you special. And how can you take that special and let it go, let other people know about it? Because I'm sure that MP3 book talks about all the failures that gentleman dealt with before he came out with that product that, changed the world.
Yeah, a very interesting life. But yeah, it's like when you make a mistake, I was going to say, or you think it's a failure of some sort, it's the best learning lesson you're ever going to get. And if you can just share it with somebody else, it saves them. That, because I made a bunch of mistakes when I wrote my first book. Like the first time I hired somebody for the cover design, I ended up firing them later, but I lost a couple $1,000 just from that. So I spent money in the wrong direction and made the mistakes, but I've learned from those that I save other people from doing the same thing. And then I like I said, I've helped to streamline everything because I've gotten all the other people to do the different things that make it a saleable book, and also how to market it. Mm-hmm. But it's a matter of I'll give you another example. I had someone come to me and said, my dad was in Vietnam and he wrote like 18 journals when he came back, and they've just been sitting there. And they came to me and said, I want to turn that into a book as a gift for my father. And I said, great. I mean, that's all you're doing. Sometimes you do it for one person is the reason you're writing a book. And this other guy I knew, he wrote a little book for his kids, and it became very popular. And it's called The Christmas Box. And his other friends read it and said, oh, I want a copy for mine. And it ended up getting really popular. And then the big five came to him and he got an offer, and he literally made over $4 million from that. Just he wrote a little book for his kids, and look what happened.
Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
John,
and John, I'm sure you'd also agree that in a situation like this, even if you don't become very wealthy from writing, from the quote unquote, from the book itself, but if you get speaking gigs, if you get articles, because I found that in order to get a lot of speaking gigs, I had to be an author. So I wrote the book not to write the book, but in order to get speaking gigs. And once you tell people you're an author, they think of you totally differently. And there's just like everybody that we're looking at over here in the right-hand column, they've got a story in them, and that's very important.
Well, and it's great. It's great to use your book as a business card. As you were saying, you can use it to promote your whole business and hand them out as business cards, as a promotional item. And it also makes you the expert and like why you should buy an RV from me. And here's the 10 tips you need when you're buying an RV. It was a book we could put out. I mean, things like that. What to look for in a salesman, what to look for in a used RV. I mean, there's all different things you can put down and make a small little booklet out of it, but use it as a promotional item. And then they're coming to you because you have something different than anybody else.
Hey, Ryan Hadley, if you're still on, you can do the independent mobile RV tech tips for 2020.
How to be one.
Right, how to be one. John, how do you let somebody down if somebody comes? You must be very busy. A lot of people have ideas. How do you make the choice of which one you're going to work with and which one you're not going to work with?
I try to look at the book or the proposal as if I were a reader, would I want to read that? Is there something there that I think other people will want? And for some people, and there's a difference in whether you're a good writer or not. I've had really good writers that wrote so I could edit and make it easy. And I have other ones that were terrible, even though they had PhDs and they were terrible, and I made them sound great. But it took a lot more work. So I look at the various details as to, do I think that it's something that people will want? And sometimes, like I said, if it's just for one person and they just want to make it, for their family. I did one recently that was really kind of a memoir for the family. And I was just taken by it. I thought that's a good story. The family's going to want it. And I've had actually a couple of clients who died before it was published, and I finished it and I published it. So, sometimes you want to get a story out before that happens. And while you still have the memories, because we don't realize that we're losing generations of people that are not sharing their stories. And so their grandkids and anybody after that will have no idea what was happening back then.
Yep. Especially and more importantly now, over the last 50 years with technology, we went a long time where technology didn't impact some of those items. And now it's changing so fast. Like you say, even since John wrote his book. Laturco's got a question for you. Growing up, did you have a specific type of interest that eventually opened the door to where you are today?
Yeah, actually, I did. I started writing for when I was in graduate school the first time. I was at the University of Wisconsin, and I got a job for the school newspaper, and I ended up doing restaurant reviews. And then they liked my reviews so much that I wrote feature articles too. And I wrote in my notes, hey, I seem to be pretty good at this writing thing. I really kind of like it. And that was, many, many years ago. And now I recently wrote something about 15 years ago where I was just jotting notes to the side of one of the books I was writing. And I wrote the exact same thing. And I found the other ones later when someone said, have you ever written for a newspaper? I said, yeah. And I had to dig up the columns and I saw my notes and I like, oh my God, I just wrote the same thing, because I was drawn to it because I knew, just like we were talking earlier, I know the hospitality industry is a difficult industry, and to know how things are supposed to be and how they really are two different things oftentimes. And so I was giving restaurant reviews because I actually knew the business, as opposed to I just like to eat. And so I knew I had something that was extra that I could offer. And the thing is, when I was writing it, that's when I realized I had the ability to write. So that's when I realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this, because I used to write papers for college first drafts. And I know people who would write 5, 6, 8 drafts. Now, after I did that first article, I went to a journalism professor and I said, what do you think? He says, this is trite. I'm like, oh my God. So after that, I would not go without at least 5 reviews before I hand anything in. But I developed as a better writer, and the more I wrote, the better I got.
Now, I told you, John, when folks come in late, they apologize. So Don's down in Athens, Texas. Better late than never. Sorry, you all. You'll have to watch the replay tomorrow, Don.
I can watch the replay at 8:01. It'll be on. It'll be available at 8:01.
Yeah, I see your brother's down here in South Beach.
Yeah, and nobody really cares that he's at a pizza place.
It would have been nice if he invited. I'm only 2 hours from South Beach.
That's true.
He could have invited me over to have pizza with him, but he didn't even think of me.
No, because he was thinking of when am I going to interview Todd Emerson? That's what he keeps thinking.
Yeah, hopefully before the snowfall. Well, actually, now that you've waited so long, Michael, you can do a season recap with him, seeing that the motorsports season is over.
Well, let's see, Bob. Let's see if he takes any initiative to ask for credentials for Daytona and actually do something instead of saying, well, I can't do it because I don't want to go out in the rain.
Michael, get some credentials for Daytona, and John can fly down, and we can all go over to the 500. There you go.
Yeah. He wants me to do that.
Any other questions out there for John? I love
John Seeley.
John Seeley. I love the $4 million story, and I do think that there, in the RV world, there's a ton of stories, and there's a lot of books out there, but there's a ton of stories out there too. So many people that, especially if they travel full time, they can, and they journal it, but it's not a book. They don't realize how much benefit it would be for everybody else. So yeah, they'll have a journal, but it gets stuck in a drawer.
Hey, Bob, we haven't mentioned that John is also an RVer.
Yes, he is.
Did we mention that, everyone? I think we even have a photo, don't we?
We do, and we don't normally do this, and it was not part of John's agreement to come on the show, but I'm going to tell you something. He happens to be selling a 1991 Gulfstream Alta that's been completely done over, repainted. You can see the ad on Facebook there, but we're only talking $20,000. So if you got anybody that has been impacted by the storms here, that would be a good temporary home. And the Fort Myers Beach Council just yesterday approved a motion that they can have RVs at their houses. That was illegal before. So all these homes that were destroyed in Fort Myers Beach are looking for RVs. And that's an unbelievable price for what he has on there. Yeah. And now you can have an RV on your lot while you rebuild your house in Fort Myers Beach for 18 months. That would be like $1,000 a month. So if you know somebody like that, or if you know somebody that's just getting into RVing, maybe you know a girl camper who wants to have something but wants something affordable, you can always get put a note out to me and I'll put you in touch with John. But that is a steal in today's marketplace. And it's only got how many miles, John? 28,000 miles?
28,000 original.
Wow. Yeah. So if you guys know somebody, think about that.
Yeah. And the other thing, now Jerry writes a question there. Why write a book if you can vlog and get an audience? Okay. I see a lot of them on YouTube. I'll answer that one because they just ain't the same thing. There is a perceived barrier of entry into being an author where in fact there is, but it's not insurmountable. Anybody can pretty much, even my 4th and 5th grade grandkids can get websites up. But I don't care what you say, folks. When you say I published a book, I'm an author, John, you can agree with me or not. They look at you differently. They consider you a little bit different when you're an author.
Yeah, it automatically gives you credibility, which is why people use it for businesses as well. But, I've gotten speaking gigs where I spoke at one recently and I had only a half hour between me and the next speaker. And we sold $1,500 worth of books, including me signing and taking pictures during that time. So you get paid for speaking and you get paid for the books. And plus, even if you don't like to speak, because there are some people who are very shy, but if you write a good book, it's the kind of thing you do it once and you get paid over and over and over. So, I understand doing a vlog is great, but this is something that monetizes it and puts it and makes you the expert and takes you to a new level by saying, oh, look, I'm the author of this. Exactly. So,
well, and John's right. And Laturco will remember this. But I wrote a book for when I was in the document imaging industry, I wrote a book called Introduction to Engineering Microfilm and Information Systems. And I wrote it for our industry association. And it was as I was building my career. But having that book out there and getting the publicity on that, it leapfrogged over 10 or 20 other people because you were automatically looked at as an expert.
Yep.
And do you remember that one, Laturco, that I did for AIM? I should have the cover around here someplace, but I forget where exactly it might be.
Have we given John's contact info? So if anybody wants to contact him, they can.
We'll put his email address up there so he has it. Laturco says when you complete the personal medical audio book, I would like to have a copy to donate to our VA hospital librarian. The encouragement for some of our vets goes a long way if this is written as you say. That's a great idea. Ed does. He's been working with the Veterans Association in Lexington and a lot of the VA work. He was in Vietnam. I wasn't in the theater. I served on the other side of the ocean being a spy, but Ed was there. So yeah, that would be a good idea to do that. We could do a NERVDA cookbook. We could do a guide to the best RV dealers in New England, and we could have a page for each of our dealers. I mean, I could probably come up with 10 or 20. Now see, Don came late, but he's still a smart ass. All right. Bob's book was all done through data entry punch cards. You're right. Punched cards led to the aperture card, which was key punch data, and a microfilm chip of an engineering drawing. And I am still on this planet, one of the few people on the planet still that not only remembers them, wrote a book about them, and used them. So how's that, Mr. Haas?
I actually did use a key punch computer back in the 70s and early 70s.
Yeah, but this was in the
Bob's referring to the 1870s.
But did you use the teletype machine that produced the printed tape, the punch tape that we used to put into the computer? That's how far back I go. I sat at the terminal, and that created the tape, and the tape went into the computer with the information. Look at Laturco saying, what the hell's the guy talking about? I don't understand this.
Okay. Read Jerry's.
Bob would run into the press room with a scoop and yell, "Stop the chisels." You guys are really starting to pick on us. Kevin Hawkey, great show, guys. Bob Z, I'll call you next week when I'm back in my office. We'll talk soon. All right, Hawkey. How's Roman doing? How did Roman do in his golf league this year? That's his son. He's grooming his son to be a PGA professional. We're probably running the clock. Yeah, pretty close.
58.
Any last minute words of wisdom for our fans? I really appreciate you coming on. I think, as soon as I talked to you last week and you started telling me about the books, I said, this got all the makings of a really good show, and you didn't disappoint, and I hope we didn't disappoint you.
Well, I think that it's just people should be encouraged to get their stories out, because you never know who's going to be impressed to change their life, or to just feel they're not alone, or to understand people better, and just to know what an interesting life people have led. And a lot of people don't think their lives have been interesting, but when you raise a good family, when and that takes a lot. When you have a good relationship, that takes a lot. If you can just get 10 secrets on how to keep a relationship going, that's a big thing. I mean, you never know what's going to be helpful to somebody else that you actually know, because you take it for granted. But there's usually a story, and people can contact me. I do a no-cost consultation the first time to just we can do a Zoom call, and we can just talk about the possibilities of what they want to do, and I'll let them know what the possibilities are, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I'm putting your email.
And while you're doing that, it's also important. Note, John, you don't have to get it perfectly done the first time, because in reality.
Is that right, John? John at heartfirepress.com, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So you can communicate there. I'm sorry, John, did I cut you off there?
He's trying to say he's showing his book, and you don't have to be perfect to be great.
Yeah, goes right along with it.
Yeah.
Right. Just do it. I mean, I know that phrase has already been used, but just do it.
And trademark.
Or you could do it now.
Well, and I've got another book I wrote for people. There you go.
Keep on believing. Yep.
Leading sources of inspiration, courage, and triumph. Now turn that on the side. How thick is that one? So it could, it could be any. Yeah.
This is hardcover.
Hardcover. Oh, the real thing. Wow.
Yeah, we can do those too, and we've done audiobooks.
That's fantastic.
Because sometimes people want. I did one. The gentleman was Irish, and I thought, oh, his accent is great. He should tell his story in his accent, and so we not only made the book, but we made an audiobook too.
Perfect. And we are over the time. Time goes by so fast. And John, we want to thank you so much for taking time from your busy day to share your expertise with us right here on RVing in New England, brought to you every week at this time by...
Good afternoon, all the New England RV dealers in NERVDA. Welcome to Lee's Auto and RV. We want to welcome everybody down for our Harvest Jubilee sale. Come on down. We want to thank Bob Zagami once again for inviting us into the NERVDA show on Wednesday night. And there's a partner he's got. Who is it? Oh, that's right, John DePietro. Oh, John DePietro!
DePietro on a stick. All right, everybody, we'll see you down the road. John, thanks again for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
This edition of RVing in New England was a presentation of the New England RV Dealers Association. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.